There is this little game on Steam I found one day called Just Shapes and Beats. A really bizarre game that really lives up to its namesake, as a majority of the game is just a bunch of shapes moving along in a very choreographic, rhythmic nature. All this while perfectly syncing its movements to the like of dubstep, drum and bass, and various other forms of electronic dance music, otherwise known as EDM. And upon finding out that this game existed, it wasn't long until $20 was missing from my bank account. And this mysterious game that appears to be an overpriced music synthesizer appeared on my desktop for me to stare at every time I booted my PC. It may have been a rash decision to immediately purchase the game that I know very little about, and the only thing I had to go on was that it looked interesting. And it actually was suggested by two of my favorite games of all times, but I believe this transaction was probably the best decision I could have ever done, as this game quickly shot up to my favorite game of all time. You see, I neglected to mention that EDM is actually one of my favorite genres of music. One that I usually keep a secret from other people because they wouldn't quite understand, and also that I have synesthesia. It's a neurological condition that fuses two senses together, and for me that happens to be sight and sound. I tend to see music. Well, not exactly. It's really more shapes moving around in elliptical patterns, swaying around in my field of view. The more complex sounds and contrasts there are, the more chaotic and thus more enjoyable the psychological trip is. Which is why complex sounds of EDM is rather enjoyable to me, and exactly why this game sticks out as strongly as it does. Just as vividly as I can see music flowing around in my mind, the game seems to perfectly capture my imagination in this regard, having colorful figures filling up the screen, moving along the music flawlessly, keeping every bit of the song engaging. Just as the music gets more chaotic, the visuals on the screen can go from mild and lucid to a chaotic mess of what the hell am I even supposed to be doing here? The best part about this is the fact that this is a bullet hell game. A genre of video game that relies the user dodging masses of flying objects on the screen as a tiny piece attempting to float between it all, forcing me to interact with every bit of debris seemingly spawned from the music itself. Which, in a way, makes me feel as though I'm dancing my way through any given song that I happen to be playing through, exactly as my mind does in my daily life listening to these songs. I mean, I have a very hyperactive mind. At any given time, I'll attempt to fill my mind with as much things as I can think about as possible, jumping from one subject to the next. EDM, on the other hand, tends to fill those thoughts with random patterns and motions that keep me occupied both mentally, as well as keeping me focused on my surroundings, fueling the intensity of my focus, being just as high as the beats per minute can go, or how much clutter the song can provide in various high-pitched mechanical noises that are often accompanied by deep-pitched bass backdrops. Alright, so here, take Lycanthropy by Cardi. It's a rather simple rhythmic pattern with a melodic tone that first seems to build up slowly, both with the intensity of the beat as well as the melody accompanying it. EDM often starts off with this almost anxious feeling, beckoning the listener to draw itself into the melody. This is especially the case with heavy bass music like dubstep, as once the intro reaches a plateau, it usually hits the listener with a bombardment of bass and low drum music. It hinges very heavily on a build-up and release setup. You're basically vibing to the music, waiting for things to drastically change and become more dramatic. To add to this, it usually tends to have an irregular cadence once the beat drops, giving it a chaotic nature, sending my mind into a flurry, much like the screen is filling up with so much clutter to dodge. I've never actually been to a rave before, but you know what? Hold that thought.
Hey Binks, what's going on?
Oh, hey Kitty. Remember that time we went to that dance party thingy?
Oh yeah, the rave?
Damn it, that was a rave!
Okay.
I've never been to a rave before, but this is exactly what I feel it'd be like participating in one with music like this playing. Letting your body just give way to the chaos of the music and the lighting around the shapes of the screen. Heavy bass increases your adrenaline to move along, and the strobing lights dull your senses away from you as the individual, and allow you to be a part of a bigger whole. Well, this is all just speculation though. I've never actually been to a rave before. The song Close to Me by Saber Pulse also has this heavy bass usage. But it's less irregular in its pattern, making each shift in the beat much more dramatic, and every phase of this bonus battle radiate with much more intensity. I think I'm really just praising the game more than I'm showing how the beats and gameplay work together to show how these songs play out in my mind. But the sheer force that I feel when the song switches around and its heavy use of bass makes my bones chill, as the telegraphed attacks on screen guide my mind and where it needs to be. Well, whether Square needs to dodge the oncoming attacks? Sorry, these similes are actually kind of getting a little confusing. But speaking of confusing, my favorite type of electronic dance music is the type that makes me want to dance the least. Things like drum and bass, or my favorite, future bass. But that's not in the game, so let's settle with chiptune music for this analogy. Which is kinda like it, but not really, since chiptune music is heavily reliant on a specific type of sound chip that you usually hear in things like Game Boy games and the NES, while future bass is really more... They're just songs that have a heavy amount of mechanical brass and synth-type stuff, often using sample of voice clips or even entire other songs. You know, come to think of it, it's actually like a softer version of dubstep. Anyway, let's start with Art of War, a chiptune song because it's arguably close to a drum and bass song anyway, so I can kill two stones with one bird in this one. It's a song that starts off being pretty gentle and peaceful-like, using a minimal amount of instruments. You know, for a lot of songs, I find that a lot of people are impatient with their music, wanting it to get to the good part as soon as possible. But honestly, I like that about these songs. The beginning of these types of songs usually set up for things to come, either being a calm before the storm, preparing you for a bombardment of adrenaline and thick rush of anticipation, or in this case, being a slow drawl of peace, filling my mind with a beautiful harmony of music for me to just mellow out to. While the music all around still has a level of chaos to it, unlike the more, well, dancey music, this actually just sets a calmness in me, allowing my mind to create patterns within the slow-moving music, perhaps prompting me to sway my head from side to side, or maybe move my eyes around anticipating the sounds that would come next in the song. Notice how there's still things on screen moving around all over the place, but still having a slow, easygoing pattern, even though things aren't exactly symmetrical. The kick drum also helps facilitate the order of things, not actively guiding the beat, but giving you a rhythm to hold on to in case things keep going in a way that you don't exactly recognize. I really do think that this game does a pretty good job at capturing the easygoing nature of the song, despite its blending of multiple instruments and different yet coinciding beats with the kick. There's a wide array of dots filling the screen, some following the beat and spewing everywhere, while others go along with some ensuing melodies, forming the pattern that these music forms in the chaos. One of the main reasons why I find songs like these peaceful is because it sends me to its way of thinking, rather than let me think alongside it. It clutters my mind and fills it, allowing me to concentrate on ensuing themes. And another such song that captures these feelings is Sevcon by Big Giant Circles. Starting off again much the same way with a peaceful beginning, only to suck itself down a more dramatic turn from its beginning, filling my mind with much more heavy musical imagery once the song kicks into a more serious gear. Keeping things on a simple base level, but throwing things back into this chaotic nature that I've grown to love at this point. Now, I've never actually done drugs before. Hang on.
Hello?
Hey, Barry, remember that time we went to the woods together?
To do the shrooms and the LSD?
Well, actually, I was talking about the... You know what? No, that answers my question. Don't tell anybody.
Oh. Well, okay.
No, I've never actually done drugs before, but I can imagine that this freeing of your mind and allowing the moment to take itself to a new area while still being grounded in the same position make taking a trip such a grand delight. Things familiar to you are skewed beyond recognition, or so much detail that they amaze you. The simple beats that you were once given are now transformed into a much more intense feeling. The screen is now filling up with wherever the music, or in this case the game, wants to take you. And perhaps when you're listening alone, wherever your mind might take you. These musical journeys aren't just something that everyone takes when listening to songs like this. I fully admit that I might have a unique perspective in all this. But that alone should make things a bit more curious for you though, right? Even if you're still not convinced that this is not a good genre, then at the very least give this game a try. It's something that kept me immensely entertained for the last month. The same goes for anyone who's into EDM or chiptunes that haven't played this game yet. It's $20, but I definitely would have gotten my money's worth out of it even if I had paid $60 for it. Either way, this is Blinkehyo trying to take a crack at trying to convince you of something stupid that I love. So do that thing you do whenever you like a video and have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.